Welcome back to Front Room Theology. It's great to see you. Again, we're doing Front Room on the front lawn, so Tyler and I can do this together, working through our series on the gospel. Today we're looking at the Gospel of Mark, and we're going to focus on the theme of victory. So Tyler, I want to ask, what's a major victory that you've experienced in your life?
Oh man, most recently graduating from Boise State and getting my bachelor's, because for those that don't know, I started college in fall of 2009, graduated in spring of 2020.
Yeah.
So that was a long battle of a lot of ups and downs, a lot of A's and F's, and just not fit going to my classes. And it was more of a battle with depression and anxiety, because that really held me back from performing as well as I could have. And so once I began to overcome that, I was able to stick with school even in the hard times and finish through.
Wow.
All that work and don't even get a ceremony thanks to COVID.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, though. That's a big victory, and
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of effort on your part. So, way to go! And thanks for sharing that with us as well.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
where have we been in this gospel series? Where have we
Right.
been?
So we just looked at Matthew last time, and we saw that one of the core ideas or the core themes of Jesus' ministry is the kingdom and the arrival of it specifically. Matthew really focused on the arrival of the kingdom and what it means for the kingdom to arrive and what it means for us to live as though the kingdom is here.
Yeah.
So we'll find that in the other accounts of the gospel that the kingdom is the heart of Jesus' ministry, but they do it in a different way. So for Mark, we're going to see this theme of victory, that the arrival of the kingdom is like this victory, a very, very important victory over the forces of evil.
That's awesome. So how does Mark do that? What are kind of the themes and structures of Mark that Mark describes for us?
Yeah, so the first line just begins with the beginning of the good news, the euangelion of Jesus the Christ, the Son of God. And if we remember euangelion from our first video about how it's an announcement of the arrival of a king or a victory. And I think you can read it in both ways in this case.
Yeah.
So we're looking at this as this is the announcement of Jesus' victory over basically evil, forces of evil that corrupt people. And so and you can really see this in the structure of Mark. So in Israelite kingship, and you can see this with Solomon and David and Saul, and to an extent, with there's three steps go towards becoming king. That's declaration or anointment, and we see that with Jesus being baptized by John the Baptist, and then there's this major military feat, and usually or some victory that they have over the enemies. So David over Goliath is one, and then the coronation, and then that sends them to the throne and to rule. Mark is really, I think, carefully structured his gospel account in this way, that he gets anointed with the baptism, then he goes into the wilderness to face Satan. And in Matthew, we read about this little detailed story of how he overcomes Satan. Well, Mark is he goes into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights to encounter Satan. The angels are with him, and then it jumps right into Jesus' ministry. I think Mark has intentionally done that to then be so here's how Jesus is going to overcome Satan through the next 15 chapters. So
it's not a specific comfort like we see in Matthew.
Right.
There's the specific confrontation with Satan in the wilderness, but you're saying that his whole ministry is a confrontation with Satan.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think, on that note, one important thing to know about the worldview of the time of the Jewish believers or the Jewish people is this idea of these spiritual beings that also rebelled against God, similar to humans did. And you can read this in Deuteronomy 32 about how they're apportioned to the nations, or the nations are apportioned to them, and then they rebelled and they've corrupted these nations. And so it's Jesus is coming to confront these beings and overcome them, and in doing so, overcoming Rome and Caesar by the power of his victory, really.
Oh, that's very cool. Okay. So he has these victories. So tell us more about kind of what he's doing. What is Jesus doing throughout his ministry, and how is he having victory? Yeah.
So right off the bat, you have so Jesus goes out into the wilderness, comes into his ministry, and the ministry right off the bat, exorcisms, exorcism, healing, exorcism. I mean, Mark's gospel is structured is just this fast-paced narrative, hyper-focused on Jesus' actions. It's just healing and exorcisms, one after the other. So these are like little battles Jesus is having, and he's having victory over the forces of sickness, over these like spiritual beings that are corrupting people. And then as this is progressing, then teachings come in. He's starting to confront like Pharisees and scribes more often. Then he starts to head towards Jerusalem, where there's more teaching and a little more healings. And then he arrives in Jerusalem. And now the healings and exorcisms stop. Jesus is now in his like ultimate showdown with the ultimate forces. He's now confronting the authorities of like the temple. He ends up confronting Pilate himself, so Rome and in a sense Caesar. And then these evil forces that have corrupted the nations of like Israel and Rome, they take out their biggest, most powerful weapon of death. And then Jesus rises again and overcomes that. He's overcome the most powerful weapon they have and claimed ultimate victory over death itself and over these beings that have turned humans on God.
That's very cool. So what does it mean then that Jesus, his victory is good news? How does his good news change the world?
Right.
That's what we're talking about with good news. The gospel is good news that changes everything. In what way does Mark describe
and I think you can see this in the story. So as Jesus is having victory over these powers, he's even over Caesar, it's setting us free. People are freed from their possession. People are being purified so that they can like enter the temple and be righteous, like holy in front of God. And he's freeing people from their like physical ailments that prevent them from doing things like loving others or serving others. So he gives us he sets us free in his victory, and he becomes king even over Caesar through victory. It sets us free. Think Exodus here, and we talked about that in Matthew. He sets his people free by overcoming Pharaoh. And in that, now we have the power to overcome these forces. Remember, like you'll see Jesus, he sends out the disciples to do these miracles, and then in Acts we see it all over the place through the power of the Spirit. So now we have the Spirit, and we have the power to overcome. So that's how the world's changed.
That's awesome.
We have overcome by Jesus overcoming.
To love then and love God and love others. That's very cool. Well, thank you for that. That's excellent. We want to leave you with scripture. So we're going to talk about, this is from Mark chapter 12, starting in verse 28. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given a good answer, he asked them, "Of all the commandments, which is the most important?" "The most important one," answered Jesus, "is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God. The Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these." So go, because of the victory of Jesus, go in the freedom to love God and love others. Blessings, and we'll see you next time.